Look what greeted me on the way in. The Echinopsis eresi, which is a native of Buenos Aires, Argentina. And in that particular area, it gets plenty of rain during the summertime. Plenty. In actual fact, if you don't give it enough water, it won't bloom very well. So here, it's moist, and you can tell because it has legionella growing in it. It's very easy to propagate. There's a bicycle missing. Why is that? Alright, then we have these two big blooms that I just can't get over. Gosh, look at that. How big that is. A lot of fragrance. I was wondering about this Pepelos yellow Pepele. Like trichomes that are coming off here. There don't seem to be too many thrips, so it must be working. They're not able to get through that defense. This Pepele or Pepelos raised trichome like hairs. They're not really hairs. But these certainly, native plants have ways to get around the pests, for sure. Any day now these are going to open. I'm going to plant this in the stony area up here. I really want to do some gardening, but it's dark and can't do it. But I will give these tillandsias a bit of a spray of water. They like it. Yes, so in this corner here I'm going to make a display using racks and these pieces of wood. So hopefully it's going to turn out pretty nice. Hopefully. I don't want to make it too I want to make it look natural as possible, by using my Dendrobium orchids. And these guys kind of just sit along here. They look pretty good, but I might just, yeah, they actually look fine. They're making this area look nice and tropical. I like what I've done here, followed through with this pot of Sempervivums. And this here is an iris. That's what it is. No, it's not an iris, sorry. It's a gladiolus. There's a slug right there, so you're coming up. Come. I don't want you in there, in case you get a taste for orchids. Gonna go ahead and water my tillandsias. There's a mantis right there. You can see it crawling along, which is great because it's what I really need in my garden. As soon as you use pesticides, you can kiss them goodbye. They'll be all gone. And it's obvious the slug's been eating this. Elasthanema. It's there. It likes the Elasthanema. And what do you know, it's not native. So it's easy pickings. All these native plants have defenses. I wonder what the hosta has to keep all its pests off, because it's doing a good job there, keeping them away. Here is a plant here. It's called the half makeup plant in Japanese. This is the one we just saw in the garden. The half makeup. The flowers are actually quite fragrant. They're very, very insignificant little tiny things, so that this leaf helps them get pollinated. And down there they're planted, and they do have roots on them, so they will root up some more. Going by how nice and tall it's standing up, it's rooting into the garden. Took a cutting of that begonia finally. Just notice with this lily here that I have in the garden that the thrips haven't been able to get into this area inside or on the reproductive parts, and that would be because of the ciliated hairs that are inside, which is what the yellow part is of the flower. And this makes it really hard for the thrips to actually walk or make their way through this rugged traverse of ciliated or raised, like trichome-like projections. And they're colored yellow so that it not only works, it's got two functions. It works to stop the bugs from crawling and getting inside the flower, and it also helps to protect the inside of the flower from heavy rain, because we expect it to have rain again. So it does it's serving its purpose. And definitely native plants have their defense mechanisms against harmful insects, and anything that's not native soon ravaged and destroyed. Another big flower open. It's equally as full of perfume. So you can see the little strips there moving around, but they're not able to do too much. An example of a non-native would be here. This Elasthanema, or Peruvian lily, has been eaten up by pillbugs and slugs. However, if you look over to the toad lily, this one is fine, and it is it's covered in fine hairs, very, very fine hairs, and I think these hairs would just make it unpleasant for slugs or snails to walk up along it. and this non-native, although it's right on the neighboring country, which is Russia, and Russia almost, well, it meets with Japan, is this plant that I picked up, Borgeraceae, or family, Brunera Alexander's Great. This one's a cultivar. Can you hear that? It's almost sandpapery, but what's so interesting about this leaf is that it is what do you call it? Rugose, which means that the veins are sunken down and the surrounding silvery part is actually raised. And what this plant does is it has trichomes that are made out of calcium carbonate and silica. The silica is kind of like sand, and calcium carbonate is the main mineral that shellfish make their shells, and it's also in chitin. And as the water is moving through the xylem, through the root system up here, it's transporting calcium carbonate, and then it is pushed out into the trichomes, which are like hairs that you find on tillandsias. So tillandsias are not the only plants, and I can point out quite a lot of them that have that same trichome-like hairs, and the calcium carbonate is pumped into them, and then it crystallizes, goes through a crystallizing chemistry, and then it becomes stiff and rigid, and this is very unpleasant. The bugs are walking on it, they can't get their teeth in between these trichomes. And this is Bruneria's way of keeping itself clean and away from predators, in case you're wondering. This native spider here is quite welcome in the garden. It's only a small guy yet, girl, and she's going to keep growing until she gets rather large. Welcome in the garden. You can see that new growth on the Maikai Mayumi. This has been growing really well too. No flowers until it becomes a much bigger plant, and we're expected to have some rain, and yet the orchids are still moist when I touch them. But they will be fine, like I said before, because they have a lot of, well, they will have a lot of beneficial bacteria and microbes in the soil, in the mix, because I don't use fungicide or pesticides. And when you have a lot of rain and moisture, these beneficial bacteria and microbes save your plant from rot, because what they can do is they can break down anything that's starting to get to the point where it needs to be processed. That's where the bacterias come in, and then they spill out their antibiotics or their exudates into the mix. They also break down phosphorus and potassium and make nitrogen into ammonia, and then in exchange they get their carbohydrates from photosynthesis of the plant. So they all work together. Look at the growth on this. I still have my mantis in the garden. There it is. I think I have another. Non-native begonia here with the triple cluster of petals. This is why I thought it was interesting, because this is a really large flower for a begonia, and I did end up taking a cutting, which is right here. This is the best season, a nice moist cool season, and I took a cutting, so this will grow fine. I always keep 2 plants of that.
Thank you.